The Wii U took a massive risk in 2012 and it did not pay off, as the console only sold 9.2 million units, which was a far cry from the original Wii that sold over 100 million. And while many nowadays view the Wii U as just obsolete due to most of its library being on the Nintendo Switch, there's actually still some games that are best played on the Wii U's gamepad. So today I want to go over a handful of games that you need on Wii U hardware. Starting off with StarFoxZero. This game was subjected to a lot of scrutiny due to its controls and the forced use of the Wii U gamepad, but I don't think many gave StarFoxZero the time it deserved. Visually, the game is one of the best on the console and it holds a steady frame rate. Story and gameplay wise, StarFoxZero is basically a retread of the original N64 version, but with some quirks. For starters, the game does a great job at utilizing the gamepad as it displays a cockpit view of the screen, which makes it easier to aim and shoot enemies. This in turn with the third-person perspective on the TV creates a gameplay experience you're not going to be able to get anywhere else. And on top of that, the game has a lot of variety, providing you with new vehicles that all have their own abilities. So if you've ever wanted to play a Star Fox game, this is an excellent entry on one of Nintendo's most underused franchises, and you should definitely check it out. And coming up next is Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. I think a lot of people have come to expect the same thing from Kirby games, and I appreciate Rainbow Curse because it changed things up. In this game, Kirby is stuck in a ball and has to team up with a paintbrush fairy to draw rainbow colored lines that Kirby can move across. This feature becomes a staple of the gameplay as players get to draw loops and tap on Kirby to perform special attacks. Each level has puzzles and hidden treasures along with 100 stars that, if collected, allow Kirby to perform a star dash, which increases his size and allows him to destroy blocks in his path. Rainbow Curse also uses a clay animation style that has a lot of detail, so it's clear there was a lot of effort put into the art design of this game. Also, there's multiplayer for up to 4 people, which can be a lot of fun with friends. Overall, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse is so unique to the Wii U, I doubt this one will ever see a remaster, so if you're a fan of Kirby games, this is a must own. And next is Resident Evil Revelations. I originally played Revelations on the 3DS and I really enjoyed it, so when I had the opportunity to try it out on the Wii U version, I was very surprised with how well it played and looked. The game begins with Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield, who are tasked with eliminating a virus on a supposedly abandoned ship, and this storyline definitely keeps you playing. In terms of the gameplay, it's a survival horror game with a third-person camera angle, and it uses the gamepad to display your weapons and map, which you will definitely need to keep an eye on as you ration your ammo and look for new areas to explore. The graphics on this game look great and they definitely improve the overall experience compared to the 3DS version, and while many viewed Revelations as just another port, it does bring a small amount of new content and tweaks which make the Wii U version a better way to play. So if you're in the market for a Resident Evil game, definitely consider the Wii U one. And next up we have Tank Tank Tank. This game was marked as being painfully mediocre when it released, and while that's kind of true, there's a lot of fun to be had with this one. For starters, it's an arcade third-person shooter where players get to control tanks and shoot monsters with various weapons, and truthfully there isn't much more to it than that, but what makes it shine is how it uses its multiplayer game mode. If you are looking for a single player game, then I wouldn't recommend buying this one, but as a multiplayer title, it's really good. Tank Tank gives you the option of playing against each other and fighting, or teaming up to kill monsters together, and what makes it really special is each player gets to take a picture of themselves on the Wii U gamepad, which is then displayed over their in-game tank. It sounds pointless, but I actually really liked it, and I found it was a fun way of identifying who you were trying to help or who you were trying to kill. So while Tank Tank might have been seen as mediocre during its release, I think as a multiplayer game, it's definitely worth getting. And next is Nintendo Land. If you ask people what their favorite Wii U game is, most casual players are going to tell you Nintendo Land, and that's for good reason, because it's one of the best party games on the system. For those that don't know, Nintendo Land is based around an amusement park that lets you pick between 12 different mini games. Some mini games are only single player while others are 2 to 5, and each one does an excellent job at utilizing the gamepad. Personally, I enjoy the competitive game modes, and I found that Mario Chase and Luigi's Ghost Mansion were my most played. Both games required a good chunk of coordination, and they were a great way to burn 30 minutes with friends. But if you want to play Nintendo Land alone, it's still a great time as each solo attraction totally switches up how the gamepad is used. My personal favorite is probably F-Zero because I like how you get the 2 different views of the track and you have to switch between them to avoid obstacles. So while many probably played Nintendo Land already, if you haven't, it's gotta be one you check out. And the next game is Affordable Space Adventures. This game is an eShop exclusive that only saw a release on the Wii U, and that's because it heavily relies on the gamepad in such a unique way. In Affordable Space Adventure, players are given their own personal personal spaceship, and they're promised a piece of newly discovered planet, but that never ends up happening as players awake to a hostile extraterrestrial planet where they have to survive, and this is all done through puzzles and exploration which heavily rely off the Wii U gamepad. Your ship isn't able to attack, but it rather analyzes enemies to see how you can avoid them, and to do that you have to access the ship's control panel on the Wii U gamepad, which lets you adjust different engines, landing gears, flashlights, and much more. All in all, Affordable Space Adventures is a super unique game that could only ever be done on the Wii U, and it has sadly been forgotten by many, so if you're into puzzle adventure titles, you absolutely have to check this one out. And coming in next is Game & Wario. This is another Wii U title that could only ever be done on the system because of how it utilizes the gamepad. Players are given 16 minigames which all use the gamepad and controllers in different ways. The story in WarioWare is like every other in the series, where Wario is attempting to make money by designing his own games, and this leads to some creative minigames that many are going to really enjoy, especially if you're a fan of the Wario series. Gameplay wise, Game & Wario has a wide array of different minigames that all control and handle differently but are extremely easy to pick up and play. I really like the fruit game mode where the gamepad user tries to steal fruit without being noticed, and the disco one that has the gamepad user creating rhythm beats while the TV player has to repeat them. So while many felt that Game & Wario didn't provide enough content, the vast amount of micro games and even collectibles still make this a game that every Wii U owner should try out. And up next is Dr. Luigi. I'm sure many know what Dr. Mario is, but I don't think as many know about Dr. Luigi. This one released as another eShop exclusive to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Luigi, and it did an excellent job breathing new life into a puzzle formula by adding new game modes and ways to control. In Dr. Luigi, players are given the option of playing the classic Dr. Mario style or opting to try out the new Operation L mode, which combines falling capsules into an L shape. It sounds like a basic change, yet it really reinvents the gameplay style as players now have to think ahead before making placements. But Operation L isn't the only thing that is added to Dr. Luigi, as there's also a Virus Buster game mode that has players using the gamepad vertically while placing blocks with the stylus. This mode uses the traditional Dr. Mario rules, but feels so much better because of how much more control you have. So if you're in the market for a new puzzle game, Dr. Luigi is definitely one you should check out. And next is Devil's Third. This game has become sort of infamous because of how expensive it is nowadays, and well, that's because it didn't sell well during its release. In fact, it only sold roughly 3,000 copies in all of North America, which probably had something to do with it being placed on the worst games of 2015 list and receiving very low review scores. But it's not actually that bad of a game. Believe it or not, I found it to be a lot of fun. In Devil's Third, you play as Yvonne, who is offered freedom from prison in exchange for helping fight a terrorist group. The story is not that good, but the gameplay is definitely where things pick up, as you take a third-person perspective which allows you to also aim in first person. It also has a decent melee combo system that lets you chain a series of attacks together, often followed by a cinematic takedown. Devil's Third used to also have a multiplayer mode that had a level editor and factions, but sadly that is long gone. So all that's left is the single player, which I still really enjoyed, so if you're in the market for an action shooter with a hack and slash element, Devil's Third is one you have to check out. And last up we have Zombie U. This game was praised by reviewers, and that's because it definitely reinvented the survival horror genre. Zombie U takes place in London during a zombie outbreak where you are tasked with helping other characters and trying to find a cure. But what makes Zombie U special is how it uses the gamepad, because it lets you manage your inventory and map while navigating across London. The gameplay takes the form of a first-person perspective, but it uses the gamepad to perform executions, escapes, and combination locks. Yet what makes Zombie U so cool is that when you die, you are permanently dead and you're given a new survivor. But keep in mind, you don't get to keep any of your stuff, and the only way you're going to get your old stuff back is by finding your zombified self in game and killing them. Zombie U also has other game modes, such as a 1v1 local mode where one person places zombies with the gamepad while the other one just tries to survive, and it also has game modes like time attack and survival. So overall, if you like survival horror games and you want one that you can't play anywhere else, Zombie U is definitely one to get. And well, that concludes my video for now. The Wii U doesn't have that many physical games, and it's subjected to a lot of shovelware, which means most of the good games are known about by now. Still, I tried my best to recommend some games that people may have not heard of, and I'm still searching for more, so if you have recommendations, please let me know down in the comments. And with all that said, please subscribe if you like this content, and I'll see you later. Bye.